Hello everyone and welcome to my Draco Slayers guide to Draco Slayers. This video took a while because I'm not very smart and it took me a while to understand like how the deck would work properly. I think I can provide a decent analysis of its key components, but a lot of it is still up in the air regarding deck building, for instance. You'll see. So what's Draco Slayers? Well, it's an archetype that revolves around the quick play spell that says reveal one Draco Slayer pendulum monster, one Draco Overlord pendulum monster from your deck. Your opponent randomly picks one of them to place in your pendulum zone or special summon, you get to choose, and the other one goes to your extra deck face up. So this is basically a card version of Command of the Doom King, right? Or one of these other pendulum setup skills that's basically a +1 from deck. You get to set scales for free. You get to set a monster in your penned extra deck for free. It's a pretty good card. It's a card that is still limited in the TCG to this day. I think the OCG has it at 3. I'm not sure. Um, but it did enable a very powerful pendulum deck known as Draco Pals, which also relied on some of the cool Performer Pal monsters that can generate advantage of their own. Joker, you all know. Monkey Board can just search any Performer Pal monster. Lizard Draw can basically kill itself to draw a card. And back in Master Rule 3, that was a pretty big deal because there was one guy you could ban summon back. However, Duel Links is not the TCG. We have seen this time and time again. So there's things we do have and things we don't have. Things we do have, a really cool pendulum skill that does work with Draco Faceoff. If you do not want the set scale that you set with Draco Faceoff, you can use Pendulum Change Basic to replace it. However, we do not have a third and second copies of Luster Pendulum. We don't have any good Performer Pals except Joker. We do not have Wavering Eyes, which was a crucial card in Pendulum decks. For reasons that I'll let you Google. We don't have the ability to vomit our entire pendulums from the extra deck on the board, and we have a very small extra deck, so we can't really afford to play a strategy that would be too toolboxy. But we do have a level 4 pendulum tuner that also happens to be a normal monster, which was something that Konami did not want us to give for a very long time. So, there's that. So just talk about some of these cards for a while. So first, the 2 Draco Slayers. Limited one, Luster Pendulum can pop your scale to search a scale with the same name actually, which is pretty good. It sets up your extra deck for future plays, and it's just a nice guy, just a cool guy. It's a limited one guy for a reason, and the reason is you should play it. The other Draco Slayer target for face up in the deck is Master Pendulum. It's a normal monster. It can pop a scale, but only once. It can pop itself, for instance, in order to set itself up in your extra deck. You definitely have to run 3 of it. This is a very normal monsters reliant deck, and having good normal monsters is not a luxury. Drake Overlords now, the evil guys. First there's Lecter Pendulum. He's a high scale, I guess, but I'm not really a fan of it. Like it's not really good. It is a dark, so you can use it as material for Evil Swarm Nightmare. I'd say run 1, try it out at 1, see if it works out for you. The other better Draco Overlords, in my opinion, is Vector Pendulum, which is a normal monster, so it works with all of our normal monster support cards, which we'll go into in a moment. You can definitely run 2 and 3 of this guy. You do need face-off targets in the form of Drake Overlords, and depending on how many face-offs you run, 2, 3, maybe one of these. I don't know. I don't know anything. Magica Libra, I was just talking about this. Believe it or not, this card came out in 2019. I did not Google that. I think it might have been 2018. I don't know. Anyway, Konami did not want to give pendulum decks that were famous for just being able to vomit monsters onto the board a generic tuner, but now we do have it. and we can search it, sort of. And, you know, that's, I think that's a really cool thing. I really do like Magical Libra. It enables one of the strongest plays. Not that it has many, but, yeah, play this card. Rescue Rabbit. You know this guy. For some reason, you've probably seen him flirt around with dinosaurs. However, this time we are doing it with scales. And it's all normal summon because the deck does not have many of those otherwise. So yeah, you can play 2-3 of these guys, including Mix and Rank 4, or some other thing, we'll see later. Go for it. Painful Decision. It's a search card that gets you to anything in your deck. And given we are playing a pendulum deck, that could mean a high scale or low scale depending on what you need. This could mean Magical Libra if you want access to a tuner. This can mean Dracoslayer, Master Pendulum. I forgot what it's called already. If you need to pop your own scale. Yeah, no, it's a good card. You should play it. It's a good card. Some more non-mandatory cards that you can experiment, try it out with. Joker, of course, you know him. That's the best performer pal we have. Also, the only good performer pal we have. It can search a wide array of cards on summon. None of them are too good, but I think it's still very interesting. Among some like popular options that you could search, Radish Horse and Silverclaw are like the best level 4 low and high scales respectively. Why do we care so much about level 4s? It's because all of our extra deck is like rank 4 and level 8 synchros focused, spoiler alert. Silverclaw also is a dark, which again is important for Evil Swarm Nightmare. Dragon Pulse Magician is potentially back row, no, sorry, monster removal. It's the other one that is back row removal. And a normal monster and a very long scale. Second Donkey is historically Joker's best friend. You've probably seen him in Allies lists as well. It's a level 4 that searches. Yeah, no, it's a good card, I guess. Yeah, it's a good card. Some of the Metalfoes cards that you should consider maybe playing. Gold Driver is a level 4. Bismegir, when it's popped, can search in the end phase a Metalfoes, allowing you to get into, you know, more setting up for future turns. They are both low and high scales respectively. However, we can't play Metalfoes Dracofoes. Yeah, I'm gonna call it Dracofoes. We can't play Dracofoes because full Metalfoes is limited 1. It's one of the key cards in the deck. However, we can still play a small engine with Metalfoes Fusion and full Metalfoes Alkahest full Disruption. You can also play Volflame instead of Gold Driver, or maybe alongside Gold Driver with Summoner's Art. But it's already a high scale, and we probably should focus more on lower scales, in my opinion. Oh yeah, also you can get to search Bismegir with Magical Abductor, but it might be a bit too much coping for my liking. Some normal monsters, pendulum scales. I like Dragoons of Draconia, just visually, he's a cool guy. He can be searched with Tanky. It's a low scale. It does have sort of normal monster support with a very slow search effect. Could be worth considering. Sky Dragoons and Lance of Orinkus are both high scales, high level, that can be searched with Summoner's Art. One is level 5, the other is level 6, so that could potentially enable more Xyz based plays. And yeah, they don't have the greatest effects. You're basically just using them as scales to your liking. Either the Evil Empowering Dragon if you're playing high scales over 5, at least starting from 6, which would include the monster that I just showed off, and also some of the Metalfoes. I think you should consider this guy. It's removal that is very valuable considering it gets over destruction, which means that Salamangreats can't Baylor links it, Infernoids can't get it back in the graveyard to use it again, Trains just lose the thing, you know, Photons lose their Photon Lord if they don't negate this. You get the idea. I like this one. But of course it requires playing some very specific scales in order to be able to access it. There's a couple more cards you could be trying out. Dragong can be searched with Gear Gigantex, but in order to make Gear Gigantex you probably have to invest in a small gadget engine. Rescue Hamster, I don't know, I'm not a fan of this card personally. Flash Knight is another high scale that can work with some of the previous cards that I showed off. Foucault's Cannon, searchable with Summoner's Art, is a low scale. Dragon Horn Hunter, searchable with Summoner's Art, also a low scale. And these two also enable rank 5 and rank 6 plays. So feel free to try it out. I don't think there's a set proper deck list for the deck yet. It's very up for doesn't mean anything what I'm saying. It's still up for a discussion. But what is it all in the service of? Well, first of all, we have one of the craziest cards ever conceived of Pendulum decks, Magister Prominence, which actually has been in the game for a while. It was a selection box exclusive for a long time. What it does is it destroys a pendulum scalar monster in order to spin a card back in the deck without targeting it, which absolutely goes over every form of destruction protection in the game and targeted protection as well. Like, wow, this can out Casitas, but also Casitas should never come back in the game. It can also summon a Dracoslayer from the deck for free, which allows you to extend your plays even further. I'm a really big fan of this one. So it is absolutely like the guy you should consider making this deck for. Dinoster, which you can make with Rescue Rabbit. That was the other thing you can make with Rescue Rabbits. It also sort of synergizes with Painful Decision, given that it can bring back a Dracoslayer Pendulum monster from your graveyard this turn. And it gives protection to your pen monsters, which is not the greatest effect, but it does have a beefy 2950 attack, so it's a wall you can hide behind. And is an extender as well, so yeah, it's decent. Magister Paladin, the Ascending Draco Slayer, is also an easy Rescue Rabbit payoff. This one only requires generic pendulum monsters, unlike Dinoster, which specifically required at least one Draco Slayer. The search is kind of late, it's in the end phase, but it's still pretty decent. It has pretty weak stats, but it can summon a Draco Slayer from the extra deck, so make sure you have your extra deck zone free in order to keep extending your plays. Some more rank 4s that you could be playing. Dark Rebellion, Xyz Dragon, and Malevolent Sin are GOAT game enders. Nightmare is a pretty good disruption guy. Steel Swarm's Roach, it's pretty good against certain decks. Abyss Dweller is also like very specific tech, and Diamond Direwolf is still the all reliable slow pop. You can also play some of the level 6 scales to play rank 6 plays. I think these are more interesting than some of the rank 4s we have access to for access to Rhinoceros specifically. Ptolemy is also a really good card. I can't think of a rank 4 that has like the impact of these two. So what's the deck list like? Well, that's not a complete deck list. That's just a small idea of the core of cards you should be playing, in my opinion. I just realized I put Joker there with no target, so please just pretend these do not exist. If you choose to not play the Performer Pal engine, take these out. And pretend I have 3 Draco face-off, then I am very rich and lots of money to waste on a digital card game. So the idea is, that's a solid basis for the deck to work with, and then you can experiment with engines that are to your liking, or maybe not. I don't know anything about this deck. Pros and cons of this deck. It's pretty fun to play. You have access to a lot of varied plays. It is sort of skill testing. There's a small controlled random element with Draco face-off in the sense where it does not really matter if you get the normie Draco Slayer or the normie Draco Overlord. Your plays mostly function the same. It is pretty flexible in terms of deck building. It is, well, pendulum decks are historically more comprised of like solid engines that one can experiment with over, you know, a set list of all the pendulums in one archetype that are good, except maybe for Cleese, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, it also has access to like some very unique and varied combo lines that are really fun to pull off, and Ignister Prominence is one hell of a payoff for this strategy. And the strength of this deck, as was the strength of pendulum decks of this era in the TCG OCG, was the ability to like generate advantage over the course of a game and out resource your opponents with relative ease. And the cons, this deck is really hard to master, hard to build. Um, all of the engines that I've proposed there are probably not equally as good as one another. You will be required to do a lot of testing, a lot of gold fishing, but also a lot of live games in order to fully master this game and the plays that you should be making. And clearly, like, I have no idea how to make this deck 100% function correctly. And also, it's not even as strong as some of the other decks out there. Why bother playing, uh, you know, Draco Overlords, Dracoslayers, when you could be playing Salamence Witch, which are like a lot easier to play and have a lot stronger payoff. And even if you don't want to play the best deck of the format, there's tons of other easier and stronger options in. I think Galaxy is stronger than this. Hero, if you're looking for an OTK build. Trains are popping off at the moment. Infernoids, of course. And tons of other decks that you could be focusing on instead of this. So, yeah, thank you for watching this video. Hope you find it informative. I hope I dissuaded you from playing Draco Slayers. All jokes aside, I think this is a deck that has potential. But I'm not like the person that's gonna tap into that potential because I'm not like smart enough to figure this out. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple of like Draco Slayers decks in the top 100 list of this KC Cup. I also wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see any, you know. So yeah, if you have any suggestions, ideas on how to improve this deck, please feel free to comment them. Share all your tips and tricks in the comment section and enlighten me as much as I have tried to enlighten people who know even less about this deck than I do. So thank you for watching and bye!